Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, Episode 284, The Last Grateful Dead Concerts. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters. Today, I will continue with Opposition Movement and Unsung Heroes. Here, I look at how it is useful to be opposed to certain situations, and when it might be better to go with the flow. Then it's Unsung Heroes. Here I look at people who are not always appreciated for the sacrifices that they make. Then it's on to the last Grateful Dead concerts. Here I look at my experience seeing the last 3 Grateful Dead concerts at Soldier Field in Chicago for July 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2015. I was one of the privileged few, one of the privileged 70,000 people who attended these 3 sold-out concerts, though many more people wanted tickets. Today's show will feature background footage from my friend's Ben. My friend Ben had a party with a bonfire. Then I'll have background footage from northern Tennessee near Cumberland Gap on my way to Cincinnati. Then I have a little bit of footage from Cincinnati, and then some footage from the Blue Ridge Parkway. A little bit from the Mountains to Sea Trail going north from Graybeard Mountain Overlook, and then some more of Mount Mitchell and the Deep Gap Trail. The Deep Gap Trail is a wonderful trail with moss-covered trees. It looks like Disneyland in the sense that everything seems to be so perfect and green. It looks like a hobbit will emerge at any moment from behind a rotting log covered with moss. The Deep Gap Trail is located at the summit parking lot of Mount Mitchell. So, after you hike to the summit, as you head back down the parking lot, just before the parking lot ends, park in the last parking space you could find on the right. And near there is the entrance to Deep Gap Trail. Deep Gap Trail goes on for 12 miles. I only hiked maybe a couple hundred yards. Perhaps in the future I'll hike some more of this wonderful trail. So now let's continue with Opposition Movement and Unsung Heroes. Next thing you know, this land that's being used for cattle to graze could turn into a desert. Sure it can. We need to retain as much jungle as we can. Sure. And so we have to realize that climate change is bad, and we have to stand up to people who deny it. And we have to realize that fracking is bad, getting all oil and natural gas by injecting dangerous chemicals deep into the earth, which may rise up and affect the water table, contaminating the water table with natural gas and with chemicals. Sure, this is already happening. We have to be aware of this. People are already suffering from the effects of fracking. We also have to realize, that the Supreme Court upheld the subsidies that are used for Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act. Sure, it is often misunderstood, and it does affect some people adversely. But overall, it's a good thing. It's just something that didn't go far enough. The reason why certain people are affected adversely is because of insurance companies. Insurance companies still have too much influence, and they were able to undo a lot of the Affordable Care Act, and so they were still able to profit excessively off of people, which created a situation where certain people may have to pay excessively for health insurance, and they might have to pay excessively for treatment. Well, that's not because Obamacare is bad, it's because it's flawed. Well, it's flawed, because the insurance companies made it flawed so they could profit more. The Affordable Care Act overall is a good concept. It's just something that wasn't taken far enough. The insurance companies' profits have to be reduced more. In fact, insurance companies should be entirely eliminated, and the government should provide health care to all. Sure, that way it can be made affordable for all, and everybody can be treated. Sure, the money is there to do this. We just have to work to make it so. It's worked in many other countries, and it could work here. A more socialist approach to medicine. So who's opposed to Obamacare? Well, it's usually the health insurance lobby, but they have many friends and they have a loud voice. So we have to stop listening to their loud voice and listen to the voice of reason, which says health insurance companies shouldn't be allowed to profit over the health care of America. Health care is not something to make money off of. We need to stand up and realize that health care should not be a profit industry. It should be an industry that's non-profit or an industry that's run by the government. There shouldn't be private insurance companies who make huge amounts of profits at the expense of people, especially at the expense of poor people, by charging them high premiums and charging them too much for care. Sure, we have to look at this situation of the Affordable Care Act and realize that it's complicated and that there's a lot of good and bad. But we have to strive in the direction of making things better by reducing insurance companies' profits and perhaps one day eliminating insurance companies, or at least making them not for profit, perhaps by breaking them up and making them into smaller companies. Who knows? Or maybe keeping them a large company, but with less profit. Anyway, then, of course, there's the other there's the gay marriage ruling by the Supreme Court, too. It was just made today, it was made earlier today. So now gay marriage is legal nationwide. All states must recognize gay marriage. But of course, many people are opposed to gay marriage too, of course. And it's been a long uphill battle. Back in the 60s, most people were opposed to gay marriage. Now, most people favor gay marriage. So society changes over time. Sure. But we can't have gay society suppress straight society too much either. We can't allow gay society to become too powerful or too influential. We have to have everything balanced. But it's nice to see that the gay society is recognized and that gay people finally have equal rights of marriage. Sure, we can make everything all right by balancing opposing viewpoints, such as gay versus straight, or people who are pro-choice or pro-life, people who are anti-immigration, and people who are pro-immigration. we could resolve things. We could understand the opposing viewpoints and make things better. Sure, we can. So now it's on to unsung heroes. Who are these unsung heroes? Typically, they're women who are half our population. Women who work so hard at home and on the job. Women who are often oppressed, sometimes physically, more often emotionally. Women whose viewpoints are stifled. Women who we don't understand all they do because we're not always there to see it. But women often do more than we realize. But there's more than just women. Well, there's members of the military who fight to defend our country and who come back wounded. Sure, we don't always understand what they've been through. Sometimes they're wounded emotionally through post-traumatic stress. We can't see these wounds physically, but they are there. These people are forever changed. We have to help them. We have to appreciate them and try to understand their story if they're willing to tell it. Sure, and if they're not, we have to realize they've been through a lot and they're still heroes. Sure. Same with police who protect us every day. Sure. And they do quite a lot, which we don't even know about. They have fought hard and worked hard to make sure our society is safer. Same with firefighters. They have put their lives on the line, as well as the police and military. And medics who save us when we're injured. We don't always appreciate them, and they don't always tell their stories either. All of these people, they often don't tell their stories. And if we do hear their stories, we will realize what heroes they really are. There's other unsung heroes, such as humble people. Sure, and of course people who have to endure or go through an awkward or embarrassing situation. They might have been a hero about it. They might have done something wonderful for someone. But because the story is too embarrassing to admit, they don't want to say it. But nevertheless, they're heroes too. So, there are many unsung heroes out there. We have to realize that. Sure. And we have to appreciate them and try to understand their viewpoints and situation using empathy. For empathy could go a long way in helping us understand all that these unsung heroes have done. And empathy can help us understand people who are opposed to us. I hope you have enjoyed this section of The Casey Waters Show. Now, it is time for the last Grateful Dead concerts. Here, a look at my experience seeing the last 3 Grateful Dead concerts at Soldier Field. This was July 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 2015. This was the Fare Thee Well concerts, the final 3 concerts of the remnants of the Grateful Dead. The 4 surviving members said they'll never play together, all 4 of them, in a concert again. That was the last show, was July 5th in Chicago, where they all 4 played together. Maybe 3 of them might do a tour this fall. Time will tell. So, it was a bit of a rigmarole getting to the concert. Um, Soldier Field, holds about 70,000 people. And where you get lit off from the bus or the train, or I guess even a taxi, well, is near Roosevelt and Michigan. And so you have to walk about a mile to get to the concert. So that was a bit of a rigmarole. However, the last stretch going in, which I thought would be the worst, as 70,000 people cram in line, and each backpack and purse and so on must be searched. I thought that part of the wait would be an hour standing in line before the concert to wait to get in, to be searched and have my ticket scanned. But it was more like 20 minutes, which isn't that bad considering that it was such a large concert. So good for Soldier Field for getting us in a reasonable amount of time. The place seemed fairly clean, Soldier Field itself, and the city of Chicago as a whole, at least the area I was in, which is downtown. The Streeterville area was where the hotel was, and the concert, well, that I guess is just east of the Loop, or just northeast of the Loop. And the Loop is the central part of downtown Chicago, where the Willis Tower, the old Sears Tower building, is located. So, the people of Chicago were quite nice too, the locals I met. So, it was a good experience going to the concerts there. So, we finally make it to our seats. I was on the 200 level, and I sit down with my friend John, who I brought with me. So, we settle in, and now it's the first concert. So they opened up with Box of Rain, which is a classic Phil song. Then it was on to Jack Straw, where Bob Weir and Phil Lesh traded lead vocals. This is a classic Grateful Dead song. Well, so was Box of Rain, I guess. Well, then it was on to Bertha. Bertha, they don't play that often, and it was a nice song to hear him do, with Trey Anastasio singing the lead vocals. Trey Anastasio filled in for Jerry Garcia, who died in 1995. In addition, there was Bruce Hornsby and Jeff Schimenti were playing along with the band. So there were 7 of them in all. Anyway, then it was on to Passenger. Gee, what a treat for me. Perhaps most other people would just blow past this song and think hardly nothing of it. It's got some nice guitar licks, some hard rock and roll. Sure, but it was such a nice song to hear. I only seen him do it one other time. That was back in 2002. I guess it was in Charlotte. Anyway, it just seems so long. I seen him probably about 100 times, maybe 50 Grateful Dead concerts, and then maybe 50 or more concerts of the remnants of the Grateful Dead. That is Rat Dog, Phil Lesh and Friends, The Dead, Further, and now, finally, the Grateful Dead again, as they come to be called for this last concerts, the 50th anniversary tour, although the tour was very short, consisting of only 2 cities, Santa Clara, California, and Chicago, with 2 shows in Santa Clara and 3 shows in Chicago. I didn't see the Santa Clara shows, but gee, I'm so lucky to see the Chicago shows. Then, continuing on with The Wheel, one of my favorite songs. Sure, a gentle, beautiful song. It is nice to hear a version of this, perhaps from the early to mid 80s. Sure, they played a wonderful, slow, beautiful intro to it. Then it was on to Crazy Fingers. That song is from Blues for Allah album. And then it was The Music Never Stopped. And that was a classic song that gets everybody up and dancing. Then, going into set 2, they started off with Mason's Children. A nice, good song with lots of lyrics and nice guitar licks. I only heard him do it maybe once or twice before in the 1980s. Then it was on to Scarlet Begonias, a classic song that I've seen him do a good few times. That was followed by Jam and then into Fire on the Mountain. So Trey Anastasio sang most of Scarlet Begonias with Bruce Hornsby singing Fire on the Mountains. But then they went into drums, a nice drum solo by Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann. It was classic, kind of harkening back to the 80s when I liked to see them. My first Grateful Dead concert was in Greensboro in 1981. I think it was around April 30th that year. They did Casey Jones for the encore at that show. Anyway, after drums there was Space. And then New Potato Caboose, a nice old song of theirs. Then Let It Grow. Well, kind of a primal song that I really appreciate. It's about agriculture and the cycle of the seasons. Then it was Help on the Way, which is also from Blues for Allah album. And then Slipknot, a nice tight jam, which ends with an explosive drum solo, just a miniature one, but very nice. And then going into Franklin's Tower. Anyway, so Franklin's Tower was a nice song too. But then the encore was Ripple, a classic song. I only seen him do it twice, even though it's fairly easy to play. I guess you could play it on acoustic guitar. Next, it was the 4th of July show. This was Saturday night, the 4th of July. They opened it up with Shakedown Street, a nice song to get everybody up and dancing, with Bob Weir singing the lead vocals. Then it was on to Liberty. This song was, well, it was one of their later songs, written in the early to mid-80s. Jerry traditionally would sing it, but Bob sang it this time. Then it was Standing on the Moon. That's from the Built to Last album, also from the mid-80s. Then it's on to Me and My Uncle. This is a classic song, a John Phillips cover, but I think Johnny Cash might have done it as well. Then it was on to Tennessee Jed, which I've seen him do a few times over the years, a nice jamming song. And then on to Cumberland Blues. Well, I only seen him do that song maybe 3 times so far. I really like that one. It's about the coal miners and how they struggled working in the coal mines. Make good money, $5 a day. Maybe tomorrow I might move away, as they sing in the chorus of the song. Then it was Little Red Rooster, a Willie Dixon cover. They'd done that song a good few times over the years. And then on to Friend of the Devil, which I also seen him do many times, with Phil Lash singing the lead vocals. Then the end of the first set was Deal. a classic song. I seen him do it a good few times. And now on to the second set for 4th of July. It opened up with Bird Song, which admittedly is typically so-so to me. But then it was a surprise with the Golden Road to Unlimited Devotion. This is a song that goes back to the late 60s. And it's a song which I only seen him do maybe 3 times over the years. Then it was on to Lost Sailor, followed by Saint of Circumstance. This pair of songs is often played together and is from the Go to Heaven album, which came out around 1977. Bob Weir sings lead vocals for both songs. It's a classic, and there's some a nice guitar jam on Saint of Circumstance, where Lost Sailor is a more gentle acoustic song. But after Saint of Circumstance came West LA Fade Away. That's from the In the Dark album. This is a classic album of the Grateful Dead, and yielded some major hits, including West LA Fade Away, Hell in a Bucket, and Touch of Grey. So, West LA Fade Away was done quite nicely, with a nice, good, hard jam to it. It's about the last day of John Belushi's life. Looking for a chateau, 21 rooms, but only one will do. Then it was on to Foolish Heart, which is also from the Built to Last album of the mid-80s. Then it was Drums and Space. It was a classic drum solo, with Bill Kreutzmann rapping hard on the drums with nice sharp beats. Then he would almost run into the drums and hit a big kettle drum and make the whole place thunder. Oh, gee, wasn't it nice? He used to do this. Casey Waters Show. Producer, Casey Waters. Photography, John Blackwell. Email us at caseywaters2@caseywaters.com or call 828-808-4265.